I wanted to ask both of you what we should be doing to create a world with a little bit more visibility, to just make more space for queer folks who are, who aren't wearing pink hard hats, or who aren't painting their fingernails, or for queer folks that are in, quote, straight relationships, and these different kinds of things. Do you have any advice for what sorts of changes we might be working towards as a culture or as a society?
Be visible.
Mm-hmm.
Be visible, and don't shy away from those conversations. If you're stable, if you're in a position to have them. The percentage of bigots is hopefully going down, and as we have these conversations, it must go down. It will go down, because education of people is one of the best ways to elevate society. For example, it's been shown that when you educate women and give them control of their bodies, teenage pregnancy goes down, literacy goes up, productivity goes up. So having conversations and educating people is never a bad thing.
Yeah, fair to say.
Yeah, and also too, if I can speak to the older queer folks in the audience, make sure that the younger generation has a safe space to talk about these things. That because they're going through their own anxieties, their own worries, how they're going to navigate their gender and sexuality. Be a voice for them. Be a place that they can come to and talk about these issues, because, they might not have somebody that they can talk to and that can guide them and give them the value of experience. So, I really recommend that, we start having these conversations with younger people, that we take care of each other, and that we are, because, the trailblazers have to take care of the younger generation, and they're going to blaze their own trails. So, I think that joining those two communities together is really, really important. And there is more visibility, and we have these conversations, and about our feelings and the life that we have to navigate. I think those things are really important, and we need to be able to just talk freely about it. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be here if I didn't want to. So.
Yeah, and I'll say very gently that I completely agree with what both of you are saying about being visible, about being loud and out and proud, and these different things. And for me, I'm a just very obnoxious person. So whatever I was going to be, I was going to be very loudly, and I get that. And I wouldn't want to live my life any other way. I'll certainly say that in the moments in my life when I have thought, well, this kind of describes me, I guess I'll go ahead and, I've got a lot of privilege. Like, I can take the heat. I can maybe take the heat off of somebody else by being visible in those ways. That, a year or two later, I've been like, oh yeah, no. I wasn't just like slipping into that identity. I am that thing. Like, I am way more queer than I initially thought when I took on some of these different labels. But I'll also say that as invaluable as it is to be loud and out and proud, it can be perhaps harder than you think to give up on that passing privilege, which again is a double-edged sword. Like I said, by embracing these parts of my identity, they've definitely shown up and they've become much more significant in my life. But also, that can be a real challenge. And so I don't want to caution people. I don't want to throw cold water on anybody. I just want to say that if you are finding that it's kind of hard coming out in these different ways, that, yeah, the world is still kind of a scary place for a lot of queer folks. And I am hoping that the three of us, and honestly, everybody who is watching, who has taken the time to better understand their own sexuality, as well as the sexuality of the people around them, we are all part of the solution here. And we are working to make this a better place. But we're not there yet. And it's okay if this stuff is kind of hard. With that in mind, do y'all have any resources, tips, or tricks? Or Helen, if you wanted to add on to that?
Well, like, even so, like, if you're out there and you're struggling, if you can find even just one person that you can be completely vulnerable with, that you can express yourself with, it's a start, you know. And as you start navigating the space, you know, you have to judge for yourself, like, how much do you want to be out? You know, do you want to perform straight? Do you want to be in a gay relationship? Do you want to be in a poly relationship? Do you want to be in a monogamous relationship? Whatever that looks like.
Do you want to tell people that you're bi? Do you want to tell people that you're pan? Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, find that out for yourself. And there's no such thing as like you're going to arrive, you know. This will be a lifelong thing that will change and shift, and depending on what kind of relationships you have, what kind of social circle you're in and stuff like that. So, you know, find what is comfortable for you. But if you have to start with just one person, start with one person. And then, you know, as you start getting a little bit of support, and find communities online. I belong to a bisexual experience Facebook group, you know, that I connect with other bi people, and we share memes and talk about jokes, and
cannot underestimate the value of queer memes.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
A real life bringer here. Absolutely.
Yep, I love my queer memes. But just having that community to connect to is really, really important. So, you know, whatever you can do to find, you know, either one person or 20 people or 30 people or whatever it is, so you can be like, here I can express who I am. Mm-hmm. You know, and navigating that space, it does wonders, you know.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said.
Do y'all have any messages for the straight folks out in the audience tonight?
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Fair to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And also all you straight people that might have some myths, these myths you've heard about bi people, some of them may be true and some of them are not. And I go, but just like your sexuality has its own expression and stuff like that, so do bi people, you know. And also to not assume just because someone's in a straight relationship means that they are straight.
Yeah, no, fair to say. And just that these rumors or some of these ideas might be true on like a macro level. You know, right. It may be true statistically that you are likely to X, Y, or Z or whatever else, but that people aren't statistics. People are individuals, and each person that you're talking to is worth getting to know as a person rather than a label or an adjective. You know, we've spent an hour and a half tonight talking about all of these different identifiers, all of these different labels, and there's value in that. It's how you find community. It's how you find a sense of identity. But like we've said over and over to some of the callers and throughout these conversations, we're all individuals. You know, our story can't be wrapped up in a particular moniker. Like when I refer to myself as pansexual, as straight, as heteroflexible, all in the context of the same conversation, I'm not being dishonest. I just don't have a word to describe the specific person that I exist as. And nobody else does either. And that's okay.
Yeah, all words are made up anyway.
Words are made up, and the points don't matter.
Right.
Exactly. And also don't expect that every person on the LGBTQ spectrum is going to want to explain this to you, right? Like don't expect that it's their job to educate you on who it is that they like to sleep with, or what all of these terms mean, right? Like this isn't something that every single one of us wants to talk about. So if you want to talk about it, gauge responses, right? Do it in an appropriate manner, and also find out for yourself. I mean, the information is not that hard to find in the 21st century. So, you know, find out for yourself and gauge the responses of the people that you're trying to interact with.
Mm-hmm.
Google is your friend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like the three of us or the folks on this show and shows like it are your representative of queer culture. You know, thank you. I'm flattered. but I am not like representative of every queer person because I am very obnoxious. And when you put a microphone in front of me, I'm going to sit here and lecture you. It's what I do. But that's not true of every queer person you interact with. And don't expect an academic lecture from everybody that you talk to.
Absolutely.
Any tips for the queer kids out in the audience?
If you like, my always is that like, you have like, first thing, make sure you're safe. That is the number one priority. Make sure you're safe, that it is okay for you to start expressing yourself. So, you know, that's always my number one concern. What follows now, like, okay, like for example, if you think you're straight and then you have a same sex experience, that doesn't mean you're bi or pan. It just means you had an experience. Right. But if you found that through that experience that you're like, maybe I want a little more of this. Maybe I do want to explore this other side of my sexuality. That's okay too. You know, that as you start getting older, and especially like when you're young, sexuality is a very awkward, strange place to be when you're trying to figure all this stuff out. But as you get older and as you find who you're comfortable with and you feel good in your own skin, you will find that your sexuality will kind of be able to develop as the way it's supposed to. So, and also, you know, as long as everything is consensual and everybody's having a great time, everything else does not matter, and that you are okay just the way you are, you know. And also, and again, I'm always about you know, if it's one person, if it's your best friend that you can come out to, then come out to your best friend, you know. And then, you know, but if you have a bigger support, like your family doesn't care, and they'll love you anyway, you know, but don't ever feel ashamed for your feelings. Your feelings are going to feel, and you need to and as long as you're taking care of yourself and you're doing things responsibly and you have at least some support system, you're going to be fine. You know, you're gonna be fine, you know, because, you know, all of us here can tell you that, you know, I bet when we were younger and, you know, we were trying to figure out our sexuality and gender and all that type of stuff, we felt like you did. And then we got a little bit older and then we were like, oh, you know what? I'm just me. And I'm okay just being who I am.
Yeah, I almost feel like I should bookmark this episode so that 5 years from now I can come back and be like, you thought you were hetero-flexible. All of these adjectives you threw at yourself, they don't apply anymore.
Right.
And that is a-okay. These words are again, they're all made up. They're important and they matter. People have died for them. People die continuously for a lot of these adjectives. And I don't want to dismiss them in the least bit, while also pointing out that they're all just very silly ways to try and encapsulate a human being in a string of syllables. And you can't do that with any kind of real accuracy.
We just love labels.
Yeah.